Scams and frauds are as old as human civilization itself. From the infamous Ponzi schemes to modern-day phishing attacks, deception has evolved with technology. Yet the underlying psychological triggers remain eerily consistent. Why do intelligent, rational people fall for scams? What tactics do fraudsters use to exploit human psychology? And most importantly, how can we defend ourselves against these cunning manipulations? The first documented scam in history. The art of the scam is as old as civilization itself. The earliest documented fraud case dates back to 300 BC Greece, when a Greek merchant named Hegestratos attempted what modern insurers would call maritime fraud. He took out a large insurance policy known as a bottomry loan on his ship and cargo of corn. His scheme was simple yet devious. He planned to sink his empty ship, keep the loan money, and sell the corn separately. The plan failed when the crew discovered his plot, and Hegestratos drowned while trying to escape. This ancient case remarkably demonstrates the same psychological elements present in modern insurance fraud: risk displacement through insurance, exploitation of information asymmetry. The promise of quick wealth, the fatal flaw of human greed. This early example shows how the fundamental psychology of fraud has remained consistent across millennia, even as methods have evolved. The same cognitive biases that made Hegestratos believe he could outsmart his lenders continue to influence both scammers and victims today. The evolution of scams, from face-to-face to digital deception. Fraudsters have always preyed on basic human emotions: trust, greed, fear, and urgency. In the past, scams were often conducted in person, relying on charisma and social engineering. Today, the digital world has created an environment where scammers can reach millions with a single email or message. Classic scams include Ponzi schemes, promising high returns with no risk. These scams use money from new investors to pay old ones, until the whole system collapses. Nigerian prince scams. Playing on greed and curiosity, these emails promise a huge payout in exchange for a small upfront payment. Romance scams. Scammers exploit emotional vulnerability, pretending to be romantic partners to extract money over time. Phishing attacks. Fake emails, texts, or websites trick users into revealing sensitive information, such as passwords or credit card numbers. Imposter scams. Fraudsters pose as authority figures, such as police officers or IRS agents, to pressure victims into handing over money. Why do we fall for scams? The psychological triggers. Scammers rely on well-documented psychological principles to manipulate their victims. Understanding these tactics is the first step in protecting ourselves. Here are some key psychological mechanisms at play. Authority bias. People tend to obey authority figures, even when they suspect something is wrong. When a scammer pretends to be from a government agency, bank, or police force, victims often comply without questioning their legitimacy. This stems from early social conditioning, where obedience to authority is seen as a survival mechanism. Fraudsters reinforce this by using official-sounding language, badges, or fake documents to enhance their credibility. Urgency and fear. Many scams create a false sense of urgency, warning victims that they must act quickly to avoid consequences, whether it's a missed financial opportunity or legal trouble. This pressure reduces logical thinking and leads to impulsive decision-making. Fear-based tactics exploit our brain's fight-or-flight response, making individuals more likely to react emotionally rather than rationally. The reciprocity principle. Humans feel obligated to return favors. Scammers exploit this by offering a gift or small favor first, making the victim feel compelled to reciprocate, often by providing money or information. This is why charity scams or fake customer service representatives offering free consultations can be so effective. The subconscious guilt of receiving something for free nudges victims toward compliance. The illusion of scarcity. People value things that seem rare or exclusive. Limited-time investment opportunities or exclusive lottery winnings create a fear of missing out, FOMO, pushing victims to act without thorough analysis. The perceived rarity of an offer triggers a psychological response where individuals feel they must act quickly before the opportunity disappears. The sunk cost fallacy. Once people invest time, money, or effort into something, they find it difficult to abandon it, even when they suspect it's a scam. This is why Ponzi scheme victims often continue investing even after red flags appear. The psychological discomfort of admitting a mistake and losing previous investments keeps people trapped in fraudulent schemes. Social proof and herd mentality. If others seem to trust something, we're more likely to trust it too. Scammers use fake testimonials, fabricated success stories, or even bots to create the illusion that their offer is legitimate. The human tendency to follow the crowd means that if many people appear to be involved, victims lower their guard and assume the scam must be safe. The halo effect. People tend to assume that someone who appears credible in one area must be trustworthy in others. Scammers often dress well, use professional-looking websites, or even cite fake credentials to create an aura of legitimacy. This psychological bias can cause people to ignore warning signs simply because the scammer looks the part. The Neuroscience of Fraud: How Our Brains Are Wired for Deception. Our brains are built to trust, which is an evolutionary advantage in most social settings. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for decision-making, is constantly balancing trust and skepticism. However, when faced with a scam that triggers an emotional response, fear, greed, or excitement, the amygdala, our brain's fear center, overrides rational thinking, making us more susceptible to manipulation. Additionally, dopamine, the brain's reward chemical, is released when we anticipate a potential gain, making us more willing to take risks. Scammers capitalize on this, crafting situations where victims believe they are about to receive something valuable. The promise of wealth, love, or exclusivity stimulates the ventral striatum, a part of the brain involved in reward processing, making individuals more likely to overlook risks. Moreover, when individuals experience stress, whether due to financial worries, loneliness, or job insecurity, the hippocampus, which governs memory and learning, can become impaired. This makes it harder for people to recall past warnings about scams or analyze the situation logically, leading to increased vulnerability. How to protect yourself against scams. While scammers are constantly evolving their tactics, there are proven ways to defend against them. 1. Slow down and think. Fraudsters want you to act quickly. If something demands immediate action, take a step back, research, and seek a second opinion. 2. Verify sources. Contact the company or agency directly using official contact details, not those provided by the scammer. 3. Recognize emotional manipulation. Be wary of any situation that triggers strong emotions: fear, excitement, urgency. 4. Educate yourself and others. Regularly, educate yourself about common scams and share information with family and friends. 5. Use two-factor authentication, 2FA. Even if a scammer gets your password, they won't be able to access your accounts. 6. Trust your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. The psychology of scams reveals both the vulnerabilities and strengths of human nature. While our trust-based social instincts can make us susceptible to fraud, our capacity for learning and adaptation offers hope for better protection. By understanding the psychological mechanisms behind scams, we can develop more effective personal and societal defenses against fraud. The end goal isn't to eliminate trust, but to cultivate it wisely, to develop what psychologists call prudent paranoia, a balanced approach that maintains healthy skepticism while preserving our ability to form meaningful connections and take calculated risks. A choice to pause before hitting send.